we're going to dive right in. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself first and what started my journey, and then we're going to go ahead and get into the herbs. And I think you're going to be just shocked at what these herbs can do, and they're herbs you can find right in your grocery store. So I'm going to go ahead and start the slide decks, and I just want to share with you that I'm going to be giving you this book. At the end, I'll give you the link so you can go get it. You don't need it yet, but this is a book that is 29 pages long, and it's a nice, concise look at these 5 herbs, all of their medicinal actions, and I've even got some recipes and remedies in here, and I've got growing instructions too. I don't want you to stress over taking notes. You're going to get all the information in this book, and that'll be at the end is when I'll share that link with you. So I'm Heidi Villegas of Healing Harvest Homestead and the School of Botanical Arts and Sciences. I'm a clinical and community herbalist, and I'm also a professional level aromatherapist. I'm certified in aromatherapy through a federal board, which is NAHA, and also an international board, which is the AIA. And I'm working on my level 3, which is really advanced aromatherapy. I'm also certified in ingestion, and I know how to work with using essential oils internally as well. I'm a gardener and a plant lover. I have tons of animals. We have a homestead, so we have lots and lots of animals here, and I love them. We garden, we grow a lot of our own food, but my heart is with my medicinal herb gardens. I love them so much, and I'm always looking at what's ready to be harvested. And yesterday I noticed, the hawthorn berries are getting ready. I'm a teacher. I was a teacher for 45 plus years of my life, if you count at the time I started at 16 teaching preschool for a little school after my high school was over. I'm a grandmother to some budding herbalists. Here we are. We're going to dig into the 5 herbs. Now, before I start, I want to just say, because I always get asked later on, hey, why didn't you talk about turmeric, or why didn't you talk about rosemary or oregano? And I have to say, I decided that I wanted to dial in on 5, just 5, because I can get through 5 in a webinar or workshop time. It is very doable. And I could have put hundreds of herbs. There are hundreds of herbs I could have chosen for this talk. And I thought to myself, I want to make herbalism very accessible for people, because it is. So these are all herbs that you can find in the grocery store. These are all herbs that you can grow easily no matter where you're at, even if you're in an apartment. We're going to talk about thyme, German chamomile, ginger, garlic, and sage. The first slide for each of these herbs is going to be medicinal actions. Okay, so they're going to look, these are weird words. They're actually words that are more medical or old-time herbal even sometimes. And I'm going to also share a little bit about the parts of the plants that's used, the energetics of the plant, and that's how it works on the body, and then the family it comes from. The second slide is going to be practical uses. Okay, so you don't have to remember all this. This is but I want to just share these words with you and what these plants do, so that you get an idea of what has actually been studied for these plants and traditionally used for. So Thymus vulgaris, and thyme, there's actually chemotypes with thyme, and we're going to talk about a little bit of chemistry, okay? It's from the family Lamiaceae, that is the mint family, and you use the leaves and you can use the flowers too. Thyme is wonderful for giving us beautiful purple flowers. Energetically, it is warming and drying, and I want you to keep that in mind for a moment, especially when we get to the next plant, because we're going to talk about how you might use thyme for fevers versus this other plant, okay? Thyme happens to be antibacterial, it's antimicrobial, it's antiseptic, it's carminative, it's a digestive, it's a diaphoretic, means that it reduces fevers. It's an antispasmodic, it's an expectorant, which means that it helps rid your lungs of mucus. It's an emmenagogue, and an emmenagogue is a plant that helps the female's reproductive system and helps them through their menstrual cycle specifically. That has actions on the uterus. So those are pretty neat plants. Vermifuge, it's an antiparasitic, and it's an aromatic. So let's take a look at thyme here. If you can see my little square here, I've got thyme. This is fresh from the garden, and I've got some dried thyme right here. And I've got a thyme tincture. Let's talk about this tincture for a moment. Look how dark and beautiful it is. It's lovely. You guys, I made this tincture back in 2016. So this tincture is about 8 years old, all right? And in fact, I just have it on a piece of masking tape here, but it's going to last indefinitely. And isn't that amazing? This, you can see all the things that this plant does, and this tincture is going to be sitting in my herb apothecary area where I keep my tinctures, and it's going to last forever. And you don't use all that much of it. The nice thing is I can use it as a barter item later on too. I can help people with these herbs if something happens. And so it's amazing. The next two preparations I want to share with you are essential oils. If an herb is an aromatic, it contains essential oils. And I've got two different varieties here. So in this one, I've got Thymus vulgaris with a chemotype of thymol. And here I've got Thymus vulgaris with a chemotype of linalool. All right. Now, those are chemicals that are inside this essential oil that are in higher amounts in each one. This one has more thymol, this one has more linalool. And the chemotypes in essential oils come from different variations in how the plant is grown, the elevation, where it's grown. But thymol is extremely powerful, super medicinal, very strong, wonderful for cleaning. It kills all kinds of bacteria, and I don't know the numbers on that. I should look that up. I did a long time ago, but it's very wonderful. And then Thymus vulgaris with a chemotype of linalool is relaxing. Okay, so when I'm choosing to use which essential oil, smells so good, or herb, the other one does not smell so good, by the way. What I do is I think about who I'm using them for. And if I'm working with children, especially, or even with adults who don't like certain tastes or smells, I'm going to choose a gentler option if I can. So let's talk about some practical uses for thyme. Infections. Thyme is amazing for infections, cold and flu symptoms, including coughing. Honey and thyme together, what a great, and maybe some onion thrown in, what a great syrup you can make with that. Urinary tract infections, yeast infections, topical fungal infections. I like combining thyme with tea tree if there's a fungal issue going on. Dyspepsia, that's stomach ache, healing wounds and cuts. I want to just share this with you. So I've used thyme a lot for my animals, and I've used it for conjunctivitis in my goats when it went through our little herd many years ago. My cat came in one day and he had a huge gash really deep in his groin, and I was looking online at, should I go get him stitches? And yes, according to the online information, yes, I should have gone and gotten him stitches, but I said, let me just try herbs and oils for a few minutes and just give him a few hours and see what happens. And it started healing up like it was supposed to. And I thought, you know what? We're just going to let this go. His wound healed up in like 3 days. And I have a YouTube video on that, by the way. You can look that up on YouTube and see the gash in his groin and look at the progression, but it was pretty amazing. So these herbs and these essential oils are incredible. Thyme also works with soothing burns, with congestion, oral care. Thyme, and there's another herb that I'll be talking about in a moment that are two of my favorites for any kind of issue in the mouth. That includes canker sores, even cold sores on your lip. It includes sore throat. It includes overgrowth of candida, which is thrush, yeast infection in the mouth. Thyme is amazing. Inflammation, menstrual cramping. That's a lot of the things that you can do with thyme. Next up, we have chamomile. So this is fresh chamomile. The petals have already fallen off, but it's the flower head that's the useful part. So that beautiful little yellow ball that's in the center. And I better not smell this too much because I'm very sensitive to chamomile. It relaxes me a lot, but it's a wonderful plant. This is harvested from our garden last year, and it still smells vibrant and beautiful. And then it is an aromatic. So guess what? We've got the essential oil. I'll talk about both Roman chamomile and German chamomile, but our focus is on German chamomile today. And I just want to share with you this. German chamomile is blue, the essential oil, and that's because it contains a chemical called chemazoline. It's exceptional for inflammation and pain relief. And Roman chamomile is a different species of chamomile, but it's really great for relaxation. German chamomile is too. So you can use them interchangeably for that. But I really love the blue oils for the inflammation. All right, if you go to the grocery store, let's just say you don't have any chamomile on hand, you can go get some tea. All right. Now, I'm going to recommend that you do a couple things here. And I just did a tea challenge. If you want to look at that, it's on my YouTube channel too. Look at the best by date. Be sure that you've got a couple years in the future for it, because it's likely it's been sitting on the shelf for a while already. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, make sure it's not in a plastic container. Make sure that it's in something that's like compostable. And I really like this brand. If you have this brand, and I hardly ever buy boxes of tea. Actually, I bought this tea so that I could do the workshop and just show you, because I have my own chamomile. But this is traditional medicinals, and this is Rosemary Gladstar's, her original company from the 1970s, and her formulas. And this company came in and bought it from her. And I feel like they've been pretty solid in sticking with her formulations. And I feel like in terms of boxed teas, which normally I'm not a fan of, I feel like they're a good option. And I actually smelled the tea bags in here, and you can smell the chamomile very strongly. So that's a tip for you if you need to go buy chamomile at the grocery store. German chamomile is an aster. It's from the family Asteraceae. You use the flowers, and energetically it's cooling and it's drying. Now notice the energetics here. Thyme in the previous slide was warming and drying. Chamomile is cooling and drying, okay? That's gonna make a difference in terms of how we use it for fevers, okay? It's an aromatic. I just showed you that it contains essential oils. It's a nervine. Now, a nervine herb is any herb that acts on the nervous system in some way. So you can't just look at a nervine and go, oh, it's relaxing. That's not necessarily the case. You can have relaxing nervines. You can have sedative nervines that are very powerful, and they actually can sedate you, like valerian and kava. There are stimulating nervine herbs, and those are going to be like caffeine, like your coffee beans or your black tea. And then you've got your tropho-restorative nervines. And those are special herbs that actually support the nervous system in its whole self. Just it helps with healthy synapses, neurotransmitters, all that. St. John's wort happens to be one of those. It's a carminative, so German chamomile helps with stomach upsets. It's a diaphoretic, just like thyme was. But look at the energetics, cooling and drying. Thyme is warming and drying. You would use thyme, since it's warming, for a low-grade fever. Like one of those fevers that's 100 degrees or 100 and maybe 101, and it's just not kicking in, and it's just not doing what it's supposed to do, and it's taking forever, right? You want that fever to go to work and do what it's supposed to do. So you would want to use a warming herb in that case, because it heats the internal temperature of the body very slightly, just enough to get that fever up a little bit so that it can kill the microorganisms it's trying to kill, and then it'll break, okay? So that's when you would use thyme. With German chamomile, this is going to be a very useful herb if you've got one of those hot fevers, those really hot, uncomfortable, you feel so sick. Use a cooling herb in that case, because that's going to, the fever will still keep working like it's supposed to, but you can bring it down just a little bit so that it can help support the body and make you feel a little bit more comfortable. And by relieving the stress and the discomfort, you're actually going to be supporting the immune system as well. All these things go together. These are just some nuances with using herbs that are really important to know. Chamomile is a mild sedative. It's an antispasmodic, so it's really helpful in terms of spasming smooth muscle, like the stomach and the intestines. It's a vulnerary, so it's great for the skin, and it's anti-inflammatory for pain. It's really nice. Here's some practical uses. So it helps with lack of focus. So when I was working with children a lot, teaching and everything, one of the things that I suggested to parents to try running by their doctor first, of course, if the child had trouble focusing, was using a little bit of chamomile. You can use the essential oil, or you can have them drink a little tea. But I have found that it's quite helpful when you've got that racing mind. Helps calm you. Irritability. Have you ever dealt with a cranky, tired toddler who doesn't want to take a nap, doesn't want to go to sleep, and yet they're overtired? Try some chamomile. Restlessness, insomnia, digestion, gas and bloating, it just soothes and calms the stomach. Hot, wet fevers, colds and flu symptoms, teething and colic. This is where this slide, I hate the word triggers, but it does a little bit. It makes me a little angry when I get to this point, because I remember when I had my first baby back in the early 80s, and I was alone. I didn't know what to do, and he had colic so bad. He just cried and cried, and usually it was in the middle of the night. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea, and they didn't tell you what to do, and I was nursing. Now, if I had this knowledge that I have now, this is why I get upset. This should be common knowledge for us. I should have been able to know that I could drink a cup of chamomile tea 30 minutes before I nursed my baby, and that would potentially support a nice digestive experience for him, and reduce the colic and reduce the crying and his pain in his little tummy. And when I think about what's happened in the last 150 to 200 years with the rise of the American Medical Association, who, by the way, crushed herbalists in America back in the 1930s, big pharma with the big money, the health insurance industry, the FDA with their rules and laws and things, with all of those combined factors, and the regular doctors back in the day in the late 1800s who wanted to have control of the medical industry, we've lost all this knowledge. In developed countries, we've lost this knowledge. And it just makes me mad, because that experience I should have just known. That's something that we should grow up knowing, and we don't anymore. And that's why I feel so strongly that we need to leave this legacy for our kids. We can't let it go away again. But it's crazy. Teething. Let me give you a quick tip for teething, and then I'll get through this slide. This is another thing. We have little crying babies, and so many parents just give them give them a pain reliever or something. You don't want to do that. You don't have to do that. Get a washcloth, dip it in a really strong chamomile tea, make sure it's strong, wring it out, put it in the freezer in a bag, keep it clean. And then when the baby is having trouble, you give them that frozen washcloth, and they can chew on it, and it soothes the pain and the inflammation. It's really helpful. Chamomile is exceptional for burns and any kind of skin health. It's great for conjunctivitis as well, as is thyme, I just mentioned, and rashes. It's really a wonderful anti-itch herb. So next up, we've got ginger. Here's a knob of ginger from the grocery store. And this is powdered ginger. I use this in my coffee every day. This is cut and sifted dried ginger. This is my favorite to use in loose leaf teas. And it is an aromatic. So yes, we have the essential oil, and I have to smell it. I always have to smell ginger if it's in my way. Here I want to show you. Now we're in North Idaho. Ginger grows naturally in the ground in places like Florida, but I've got it growing in a pot, and I just keep it in a warm place and make sure that it stays moist. And there we go. We've got ginger growing. But I love this plant. It's really wonderful for so many reasons. It's in the family Zingeraceae. You use the rhizome. It's warming and it's hot. So we're going to talk about the difference there in a minute. And it's also drying. I want to have I'm a big believer in experiencing the herbs, okay, the plants. So I'm going to challenge you to try making a tea with the fresh ginger, and try making a tea with the dried ginger, and then taste the difference. Okay. You might be shocked at the difference, but ginger is one of those plants where when you dry it, it actually gets hotter, and the fresh part of it, it's still warming, but it's not hot. So it's pretty interesting. Ginger is an aromatic. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's also a diaphoretic for drier fevers. It's an expectorant. It stimulates the expellation of mucus from the lungs. So it's wonderful that way. It's a carminative. It's an analgesic, which means it's a pain reliever. It's antimicrobial as well. It enhances the circulation. It's a vermifuge, and it's a rubefacient. So when you take ginger, what you're doing in your body is it's a little bit dispersive, which means it can help get blood and oxygen to the extremities, the peripheral areas of your body, which supports just healthy circulation all over the place. It's not as strong as cayenne is, but that's another one of my favorites to work with for that. So if you've got cold hands, cold feet, or if you're having neuropathy, these kinds of herbs can be helpful. A rubefacient actually brings oxygen and blood to the surface of the skin. So you might see a rosiness if you use it on your skin, especially if your skin's sensitive. And what that's doing is it's supporting the health of the skin. So ginger is one of my favorites to use in cold situations like arthritis and osteoarthritis, situations that are real stiff and cold. Anyway, here are some practical uses. I just mentioned arthritis, muscle pain and sore muscles, migraines, cold and flu symptoms, nausea. It is exceptional for nausea. Take a little nickel, that's what they call those little slices there, stick it in your teeth, or your cheek, not your teeth, if you get car sickness. And you can even have children take a little bit less for kids, and they can sometimes benefit from that. Gut health, menstrual cramping, ear infections, circulatory enhancer. It's great for the heart. A lot of studies on ginger for the heart at this point. Inflammation, stomach flu, and of course, fevers. Now we're on to garlic. Here's a bulb of garlic. This is from the Alliaceae family. That's the alliums, like your onions and your leeks. All of the alliums have wonderful properties. Here are, these are peeled cloves. And let me give you this quick tip because this is so fun. These are peeled cloves of garlic. And what I do is I fill a half-gallon jar, and then I cover the garlic with white vinegar, and I store it in the refrigerator. It lasts for many months, and it's just a great way to have your cloves available to you right away with already peeled, already ready to go, and that vinegar is delicious. So I just wanted to share that with you. You can cook with the vinegar and the cloves of garlic as well. Garlic, it happens to be an aromatic herb as well. It's not listed here because hardly anybody I know uses the essential oil. It does have very small amounts of essential oil, and it's extremely powerful. And so you use the bulb part with the cloves. Garlic is an exceptional circulatory stimulant. In fact, I manage some high blood pressure naturally in my body. And one of the things I do every single day is take garlic. And I can tell a difference when I don't take it, but it's wonderful for just overall circulatory system support. It's an alterative herb, and no, that's not a mistake. It's not, I didn't mean to say alternative. It is an alterative. And an alterative herb is an herb that goes into your body and it brings balance in whatever way it's needed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. It's also a diaphoretic, it's an expectorant, it's an antimicrobial, it's also a digestive, it's an immunomodulating herb. This is a very special category of herbs. Because an immunomodulant, this goes along with it being an alterative, it actually supports your immune system, whether you have an autoimmune issue or whether you have an overstimulated immune system or an understimulated immune system. Garlic gets in there and modulates it and helps it do what it's supposed to do. I know that sounds crazy, like how can something do that? But it really does. And I've seen it work that way many times. But the plants are amazing. God put these plants on the earth for us. He gave us these herbs for our medicine and our food. And it's up to us to, once again, relearn how to use them like we used to know. And they grow, what we need grows right in our areas. Even in the Mojave Desert where I lived in Las Vegas, there were herbs I could go forage, and they were there for us, for the foraging and the using. And garlic is a vermifuge, so I want to talk about that. It's exceptional in deworming kinds of formulas. And you can actually make up your own formulas. There are some online, but be careful with those. Uses for garlic, we've got hypertension. It also helps helps with hypotension because it stimulates the circulatory system as needed. Bacterial infections, fungal infections, it helps to balance cholesterol levels. There's actually been a lot of clinical studies on how garlic works for cholesterol, and it can be very helpful. So look into that and add a little bit of that. Cold and flu symptoms, congestion in the bronchial passages, bad yeast and bacteria overgrowth in the gut, digestion, worms, and insulin resistance. It helps to balance blood glucose levels, and it helps with asthma. Let's go on to sage. Sage is, this is just garden sage. This is a wilted group of leaves. It smells so good. I love sage. And here it's an aromatic, so we do have the essential oil. I have to smell that one too. And then here we have some dried sage. You can tincture sage, you can put sage in oil for the skin. All of these different herbs you can prepare in a number of different ways, depending on what you want to do with them. Sage is definitely one that I don't want my garden being without ever. And it is from the family Lamiaceae, so it's a mint, just like thyme was. It's the aerial parts are the parts you use, so the leaves and the stems. It's warming and drying. You'll find a lot of the mints are going to be warming and drying. Not all of them, like peppermint's cooling, but it's pretty interesting. They have a lot of overlaps. It is an aromatic. It's an astringent. It's a very strong astringent. Sage is extremely tightening and toning to tissues in the body. And we'll talk about why that's important in a moment. It's a great digestive. It's a diaphoretic for fevers. It's also an antiseptic. It's also a circulatory stimulant, and it's an antispasmodic. You can see that these herbs have some different properties that they mix and match with each other. And if you want to, what you do when you make a formulation or when you're deciding what you want to give to somebody, you set an intention for what you want to make, and then you can choose the herbs that have exactly what you need in that formula. And we do talk about formulation in our school. Uses for sage, sore throat. You know what? If I haven't had a sore throat in years, but if I get one, sage is one of the best plants to reach for. You can make a really quick, easy throat spray. I can't remember if I put it in the book or not, that one. I hope I did. But anyway, I have it somewhere on my website. But you can make a quick, easy spray, and it numbs the throat, and it also tightens up the tissue. Think about a sore throat for a moment. It's hot, it's inflamed, it's flaccid, it's hurting, and the tissue's like real loose. Get that spray on there, and it goes to work. And not only does it tighten and tone the tissue, and it also supports the healing process because it's also an antimicrobial. So it goes to work helping your body fight off the sore throat and hopefully not the cold that's coming along. It's great for oral care. A few moments ago, I talked about using thyme for oral care. Sage is the other one that's exceptional for anything to do with the mouth. Excessive sweating. Sage is it's really great for women who are having the hot flashes or the night sweats. Now, I also will recommend black cohosh for women. It's not as powerful and as fast acting as black cohosh, but it tends to support drying out the body to an extent, so you're not just soaked all the time. And then there are people who just sweat a lot. I'm one of those people. It can be really helpful for people like us too if you run a little bit hot. It's great for infections, digestion. It's great for diabetes support, toothaches. It's wonderful in the mouth for things like this. Sore muscles. It also has been studied to support healthy cholesterol levels, cognitive health. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. So sage is one of my very favorite plants to use supporting the brain. There have been studies on sage on early onset Alzheimer's patients in the hospital, and sage has been shown to really make a difference. One of the things I like to do, especially when I have to, I'm working on finishing up the Aromatherapy 1 certification course right now, actually, and what I do is I diffuse sage, rosemary, and lemon, and sometimes I'll throw a little peppermint in there, and man, what a great combination that is. It really helps you think better. Really wonderful. Smell a little more sage. It helps with liver complaints. It really is nicely supportive of the liver, cold and flu symptoms, and it helps with energy too. So if you feel fatigue at the end of the day and you need a little pick me up, don't reach for the coffee because that's going to keep you awake at night. What you want to reach for is your peppermint and your sage and your rosemary. That's going to get you going again, I promise. But herbs do work. They're just amazing.
Thank you so much for watching my presentation. I really appreciate that, and I hope it was valuable to you. And I hope you see how wonderful these plants are that we have right at our fingertips, and how possible it is for you to have a customized home apothecary. I want to invite you to enjoy my newsletter, get on my newsletter, and you can do that by getting the free herbal remedy guide. And if you want to take your studies further, consider signing up for my Ditch the Drugstore course. It's a very solid family herbalist course, and there is a certification option as well. I would love to have you join us and actually get your home apothecary going and know how to use it with confidence and have it be customized for the members of your specific family, so you're not wasting time and money. All right, I'm Heidi Villegas. Thank you so much for being here.